Today I'd like to introduce Willie Hendrickson, CEO and founder of Aveka Group, and turn it over to you, Willie.
Wow, thank you, Jeff. This is pretty exciting for me. This is my first webinar that I've ever done. So when I do something wrong, please type in the chat box and tell Jeff so Jeff can tell me that I'm doing something wrong. Today I'm going to talk about the Aveka Group. And Jeff and I agreed that if there are pressing questions while I'm giving my talk, please pass them on to him, and he'll cut in and let me answer the questions as they're coming in, or please save the questions for the end. I'd be happy to answer them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Aveka Group and what we do in particle technology. What I'm going to do just give you a short overview here of the Aveka Group. We are a particle technology company focused on contract manufacturing. So in general, we don't have our own products. In fact, in general, we have absolutely none of our own products. As a genesis of the company, I used to work for 3M from 1978 to 1994. And I took the opportunity to buy a pilot plant in 1994 and actually spin that off of 3M. And we started out with an 8,000 square foot facility that was a pilot plant. And over the next 21 years, we've expanded our business to have 5 separate companies with 5 separate sites in many different areas. We work with companies that are in ceramics, we work with companies that are in the food area, we work with cosmetics companies, and those are examples. Because of that, the reason that we have these 5 separate companies is to keep things separate. From a quality standpoint, we're ISO certified in the plants that are appropriate to be ISO certified, or we have food grade certifications in the other plants. Over the years, we've grown from the initial 3 employees up to 230 employees. The vision that we have, as shown on this next slide, is to be the recognized leader in innovative manufacturing solutions, specifically in particle technology. And I really want to talk about that. Innovative manufacturing solutions is one of the important things that we try to distinguish ourselves, because when somebody comes to us with an idea, whether it's in grinding or spray drying or whatever it is, many times the easy answer isn't the right answer. So we look for that way of being innovative in many ways, and hopefully as I go through the talk I'll show you how we actually do this. Our mission is to be this leader in particle processing, primarily by providing quality manufacturing and excellent customer service. And once again, our customers tell us that we're either doing the job or not, and I think for the most part that they've liked what we've done. What I'm going to do in this talk is I'm going to talk about what we do, but I'm going to use a number of case studies on how we approach things to give you an idea of what we're doing. So one of the things that we've done is we do a lot of specialty materials processing. People will come to us and ask us to do things that we don't necessarily know. So this is about 2 years ago. We had a customer come to us and ask us if we would put up a facility to receive a liquid, take that liquid, filter press it to concentrate it, take that material, fluid bed dry it, and then finally vacuum package this. And the first time they asked this question, we told them no, because we don't do filter press concentration. That was not one of the things that we did. After 3 or 4 questions on this and insisting that they'd really like to work with us, we finally said, well, let us take a look at the process, see what it is, and we agreed that we could do it. But the problem is we did not have filter presses in our plant, nor did we even have a place to put this equipment in. And so what we did is we talked to them and came up with a plan that we would actually build an addition onto our plant and add in all these pieces of equipment. What you're seeing here in the picture is part of the installation that we actually built. And when we started this installation, we were actually the people that you're seeing there would have been standing on the ground outside. So this was a build from the start. We added this onto one of the buildings that we had. The second picture is kind of the opposite view, where I'm showing you 3 of the 4 fluid beds that we put in. And the reason I'm telling you this story is when we actually looked at the entire process, what we said is that we think that we can build this building, which included an MCC room, a liquid receiving bay, the big processing room that I've shown you, and buy, install, or build the equipment in 18 weeks. Now think about this. When I was at 3M, if somebody would have approached me and asked me to put up a building, IQ, OQ, PQ the equipment, purchase the equipment, and get it up and running, I would have told them for the size of this facility that it would have taken me somewhere between 18 months and 2 years to actually make this happen. So when we told our customer that we were going to do this in 18 weeks, there was basically dead silence on the end of the telephone, and the response was, well, yeah, let's see what happens. We actually didn't make the 18 weeks. We actually were able to build this thing and IQ, OQ, PQ, this equipment, in 18 weeks and 1 day. And so the day that we called up our customer and said, well, you know, we're ready, why don't you send us equipment or send us raw materials so we can start processing, once again there was dead silence on the end of the telephone, and the person said, you know, Willie, if you could see me right now, I'm absolutely red-faced. And what he said was, there is no way that we believe that you could get this done in 18 weeks, but you know, we're going to give you, you know, a chance to do it, and the fact that you did it, we don't have the raw materials ready for you. What happened was we got them in 2 weeks. We started processing, and like any process, you know, you go through a few glitches, but we were actually able to work through all of these glitches and actually have this system up and running in about 8 weeks. And so, you know, we built it, we processed it, we qualified it, and we did it. And this is one of our, what we would call, innovative manufacturing solutions. Can we get it done fast? And we've done this probably 4 or 5 times. This might be the biggest example of it, but it's one of the things that we really focus on. We do a lot of drying, and you know that the previous slide, the reason that we actually took that project on was because we had expertise in fluid bed drying. On this slide, you can see, you know, a number of pieces of equipment, and I'll kind of go clockwise, starting up at the top. We have numbers of tower dryers. So this is a tower spray dryer that you're seeing here. Directly beneath this is examples of roll dryers that we have. So we have a number of roll dryers available. We have the fluid beds that you're seeing, different pictures of different fluid beds that we have. And finally, the last picture on the left-hand part of the slide is a box dryer, a box spray dryer. So different pieces of equipment in different facilities. You know, capabilities range from, can we do a pound of material as a test run, or can we do truckload quantities, you know, every 8 hours? And we actually have equipment can do that. Part of the reason that we have these different pieces of equipment is we are never sure what our customer is going to come in and ask, and how are you able to be prepared for something that should go in a different piece of equipment? Well, the way that we've addressed this is we try to have quite a bit of different pieces of equipment, and this is kind of showing you some of the things that we have. Having said all that, let me give you another example of some of the challenges that we have. So this slide starts out with the title is Fires During Processing. And you know, we all know that that's really a bad day when you have a fire during processing. And handling particulates like we do, fires are part of the problem. In the wrong situation, you can have an explosion. So the question that we had, the problem that we had, is we had a customer that came, we had multiple customers come to us and asked for us to provide microencapsulated omega-3 oils. You know, omega-3 oils, we all should take them. It's great for heart health. It's great for your digestive system. But the problem with omega-3 oils, I think what makes them useful to us is they are very sensitive to oxidation. And in fact, in the bad case, if you take a fish oil pill, it smells really bad. That's the rancidity, the oxidation that's occurring. In the really bad case, omega-3 oils can actually spontaneously combust. And so we started spray drying some of these materials and well aware of some of the sensitivity to oxygen. And after 3 fires in our dryers, small fires, not necessarily disastrous fires, but fires in our dryer, we decided that we weren't going to spray dry omega-3s anymore. Well, it's one thing as a contract manufacturer to say that. It's another thing to live by that. And probably within 3 years, and I think that was the timing, we had another customer come up and ask, can we do an omega-3 product? Slightly different than what we had before. And we told them, I said, you know, there's no way that we can do this in a spray dryer. It's just the wrong piece of equipment. Now, I am aware that there are people that do spray drying of omega-3 oils in spray dryers. And when I've talked to them, they either have very, very complicated fire suppression systems built into their dryers, or on a regular basis they have a fire in their dryer and they just accept that as part of doing business. We thought that we should probably be a little bit smarter than that, and so, you know, we started to think, if we're going to handle omega-3s, what is the solution? And obviously, minimize the exposure to air. If you are going to make a particle with omega-3 in it, a larger particle, or i.e. a smaller surface area, is what you want. And so we started looking at, is roll drying a solution to this problem? And what we found with working with this particular customer is that we could actually do a safe procedure. I mean, we actually put a lot of special controls on our system, but we could actually process omega-3s safely and properly with roll drying substantially easier than spray drying. And, you know, I'll knock on wood, but to this date we've managed to eliminate the fire issue or the rapid oxidation issue. This sort of thought process is, many times we'll have people come to us and ask us to do a particular process, and we actually like to have a discussion with our potential customers and say, do we have the correct solution here? And many times what the customer wants is the correct solution, but in this particular case we actually changed the process a little bit, and we actually ended up with an acceptable product, and we didn't have the issue with fires. The Aveka group itself, you know, as Jeff said, you know, perhaps a shameless ad stuck in the middle of the talk, is comprised of the 5 companies that I talked about. Aveka Inc. was where I'm sitting today. It's in Woodbury, Minnesota. It's our corporate headquarters, and it's where we do our R&D. We have 3 plants in Iowa: Aveka Manufacturing, Cresco Foods, and Aveka Nutra-Processing. Aveka Manufacturing is probably closer to an industrial type of environment, whereas Cresco Foods and Aveka Nutra-Processing are food plants. And on each one of the on each little tab for the company, it lists some of the processes that we typically do in each one of the areas. In 2012, we bought a new company here in Minnesota called CCE Technologies that focuses on industrial materials using jet milling and classification, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on in the talk. One of the things that we recognized early on was that if you don't have good particle characterization for all of the processes that you do, whether it's an R&D process, whether it's a quality release, or whether it's just following your manufacturing process, I don't know how people can be in business. So over the years, we've invested an awful lot of time and effort and money into particle characterization, from particle size analysis. And if you look at the bottom right picture, you see 2 HORIBA instruments that we have. We love HORIBA equipment. We've probably had boy, I think over the 20 years we've been in business, we've probably had 12 or 13 HORIBA systems. The pieces of equipment that you see are typically running somewhere between 10 and 11,000 particle characterizations per year. At least our HORIBA representative tells us that we far exceed expectations on particle size analysis. But the reality is if you don't know what you're doing, how do you know what you're really doing right? We've invested in other characterization methods, including a standalone SEM, surface area, zeta potential measurements, DSC, TGA. My lab manager, who you see the picture in the bottom, Paul Verbanek, continually says that he doesn't have enough equipment, and you can see the pictures. He has lots of equipment, and we use it quite regularly. What I'd like to do now is kind of give you another case study about, particularly particle characterization and use of particle characterization in controlling processes. So what you're seeing here, particularly the lower left picture, is a picture of a set of equipment that we put together that I'll describe. What we do is we receive a variety of ceramic parts from one of our customers, and what they would like to do is recycle this ceramic. So what we do is we put these ceramic parts in a tote, and here, if I use my cursor here, put the tote in this part of the equipment here, this actually lifts the tote up and dumps it into this hopper right here. At the bottom of the hopper is a very large auger, and the auger, this screw auger, was actually designed and built to crush and tear apart 55-gallon stainless steel drums. We don't grind and crush 55-gallon drums. We actually put ceramic parts in there, and it works very nicely as a crushing process to prepare the product for actually our next step of the grinding. This piece of equipment right here is a magnetic separator that actually, if there's a bolt or a screwdriver in it, it kicks it out and puts it down into this bin here. But finally, this ceramic reaches this hammer mill, which now grinds up the material. It allows us, instead of having to feed one part in at a time, we can feed totes of this, and we actually increase the efficiency of our operation. Eventually, this material ends up being pneumatically conveyed to this hopper, which then goes through a screener, and from that point, we now have the material that's ready to actually be processed. And so the pre-crushing part is just kind of the start of the process. What we're really doing ultimately is we're actually ball milling the material down to a very specific size. In 2003, when we started this project, we had a specification of a D50 of 15 to 35 microns. Now understand that all of these ceramic parts are the same material, but they come from around the world and they're different sizes. And so when we first took this project on, our thought of having a consistent D50 with this wide variety of parts was going to be very difficult. Well, we were actually able to make it. And as time went on, and it's not surprising, our customer said, you know, Willie, it's great that you've been doing this 15 to 35 micron optimum process. Can you do better? Can it be 18 to 24? By the time 2013 came along, the spec had changed to 16 to 19 microns. Now that's not the, remember this is a D50, not a full span of the particle, but to have that consistent D50 show up again and again and again, it was mind-boggling. On top of this, in 2012, we've been keeping good records of all the particle sizes of all these thousands and thousands of runs that we've done in our ball mills, and we found that even though we were within the D50 spec of 18 to 24 microns, there was a seasonal cyclical behavior of the particle size, and it was going up and down. This told both our customer and us that perhaps there's an opportunity to tighten this down a little bit, and we initiated a Six Sigma DMAIC process, which is design, measure, I can't remember, analyze, something control, implement control, that's what it is, I'm sorry. This DMAIC, but the DMAIC study was done with, let's take a look at the data and find out what is causing this fluctuation, and can we use this to actually get an understanding and control our process better. So the DMAIC was undertaken. It took about 6 months to do it, and what we found was that we could control the particle size, and we could tighten up our range from the initial 15 to 35 microns to 16 to 19 microns by adding a proprietary grinding aid. So this is a ball milling process. We're adding a small amount of grinding aid to this system, and the cycling went away, the particle size distribution became tighter, and surprise, surprise, the grinding rate actually increased, and we decreased our ball milling time by about 30%. Wow. Using particle characterization, good statistics, good quality measurements, we were actually able to optimize the process, make a better material, shorten the process time, and actually get this thing in spec. An interesting thing happened, and this is kind of like the story, the interesting happened on the way to the forum, is while this grinding aid helped with this, it was not completely sufficient for total particle size control. And one of the things that we found, and now at this point, we're very excited about this because the results that we're seeing are showing better control. We're now measuring everything, and what we found was the ball mill temperature was a secondary effect that was almost as critical as the proprietary addition. So we had a primary effect that was controlling our grinding. We had a secondary effect, ball mill temperature, that was important, and we're now looking at, there appears to be a tertiary effect, and so we're continually optimizing this process, giving better value to our customer, better consistency, better value to us by using, you know, a lot of the good quality and particle characterization methods that we have available. Where this kind of leads me to is I just talked about 3 cases. One was about fast implementation. One was about, you know, how do we assess a new particle processing, and the third is how can we get better quality. Well, we've identified these things as key factors in our company, so we've focused on quality. We have 11 quality personnel, and we're either ISO certified or GFSI certified. When I started my business, I looked at quality as perhaps a problem. I look at it now as the solution. We've always had a good research area. We have 7 laboratories and pilot plants, and we have 15 scientists and technicians, and so when somebody comes up and asks us something different or something that is a little, you know, out of the norm, we're actually able to address this. And finally, and the ability to come up with a rapid solution, whether it's building a new process line or an innovative solution, we have on staff engineers in all of our plants, and their objective is to modify, make it better, make it faster, do this so we can be a better supplier for our customers. I think this slide really speaks to some of the things that we hold near and dear and how we try to operate to the best of our ability. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of dry grinding. We have different methods for dry grinding. The largest particle that we get out is up at the top on a pre-crushing, and the smallest particle that we get out might be with our jet milling process, and these are just typical types of processing. Once again, just like we had with our drying process, we have different processes because different materials will grind differently, or different particle sizes that are needed are we need to dry them need to grind them in the appropriate size. So what we have here, let's see if I can move. I'd like to talk a little bit about jet milling and classification. So the picture that I'm showing here is the pictures of the jet mills that we actually build for sale and for our own use. And what I'd like to do is just give you a short case study about a project that we're currently working on, where we're actually jet milling glass. And the challenge is we're receiving crushed glass, so this is about 1/8 of an inch in diameter, and we need to produce a high yield. The problems are when we're jet milling this sort of material, the yields are low. We're only getting 42%, and what's happening is as we're jet milling this and the particles are coming out of the jet mill, we have a lot of fines, and the fines are causing a lower yield, and the fines, worse, is they're actually sticking to the coarse particles. So we think we might be classifying and grinding properly, but we're not. Now, what we've done in a situation like this, and this is kind of the your typical, I've got to work my way through this, is we balance the energy input. And so in other words, we're balancing the amount of air that we're putting into the jet mill for the jets themselves, more air or less air, and we're changing the cut point. So we're cutting up a little bit higher or a little bit lower. And on our first run through the system, we were actually able to increase the yield up to 54%. Now, that still means that I'm throwing 46% of the material away, but this is kind of the stepwise process that you go through with something like this, is that you're balancing off all these parameters, and the idea is to just keep pushing that up. Realistically, at the end of the day, can we get it up to 60%? That might be a wonderful yield in a particular case like this. And our objective as we work with our customer, and this is a big project, is to make sure that we can get that yield up as high as possible. It's to their advantage and to my advantage. So as I've given this talk, I've basically talked about the process. These are the process technologies that we do. I've talked about spray drying, grinding, a little bit about roll drying, a little bit about fluid bed drying. The processes at the bottom are what we typically call our value-added processes: particle coating, microencapsulation, bead making, microfiltration, purification. I'm going to end my talk with an example in microencapsulation, particle coating, to just give you one last flavor of some of the things that we do. So in microencapsulation, we do a lot of microencapsulation and bead making. There's different types of particles or microcapsules that you can make, ranging from a core shell type of structure, and you see a picture here. This is a spray-dried core shell microencapsulation of a fragrance, to a matrix type of particle. This is an alginate bead that we make by precipitation, to a coating process or a plating process. And this is a particle that was made by a process that we call MACE, magnetically assisted impact coating, that I'm going to talk about. So magnetically assisted impact coating is a process where you actually take small particles indicated by the red and large particles indicated by the green, and put them into an oscillating magnetic field as shown here. The magnets move around in this oscillating magnetic field, and they literally pound the small particles onto the big particles. If we actually consider this in even a broader case, we've actually done this where the small particles are a liquid. So now they're very small, obviously, and we can use this process as a very good method of coating liquids on top of small particles. And let me show you what I'm talking about here in this next slide. So here we have a schematic. The black particles are magnets that are moving around. In the coil that we have here, we have a number of screens, and the screens are sized to allow the big particles, the blue and the red particles, or the small particles, excuse me, to go through the screens but keep the magnets on the surface. As the particles go through the system, the magnets literally impinge the small particles onto the big particles, and you can see coming out the bottom, you can see a coated particle assembly. What's interesting about this is a process that allows you to put any small particle onto any other large particle. As an example, we've actually coated silica onto polymers, and by the same token, we've coated the same polymer if we have the right size range, if it's now the polymer is a small particle, onto a glass particle. We've actually used this process to put organosilanes on particles, so we have an extremely uniform process, but we're not using solvents. So this is a continuous process that is done with no temperature rise. And the process that we have has the ability to treat particles as small as a tenth of a micron up to 5 millimeters, and allows you to uniformly coat either liquids or powders onto the materials. Here are some pictures that have actually show this is a salt particle before treatment, and this is a salt particle after we've decorated the surface and got a good coating on the surface. Obviously, if I showed you a particle that we put a small amount of liquid, a reactive liquid like an organosilane, it's hard to see that the organosilane has gone on there. But by checking it by chemical methods, we can actually show that we have a very, very uniform process. The process is continuous, and the process lends itself to both small and large volumes. So I'm going to end here with why would anybody come to a company like Aveka? When I started the company, we thought that we were going to get business because we have this wide range of process capabilities and we're innovative. Well, that works up to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, the customers are most interested in do you produce a quality product, do you have good customer service, and are you committed to health, safety, and environmental? We actually added this as part of our business, and what we found out is the customers like that, but mostly what they like is the fact that we're very flexible in how we approach any problem, whether it's a build of a new facility like I showed at the very beginning, or it's how we approach which grinding or drying method that we actually use. At the end of the day, we like to think that we provide innovative manufacturing solutions. We do it on an R&D lab scale testing to pilot to full-scale manufacturing, but at the end of the day, what we really like to do is look for value-added product partnerships. And Jeff, I think I'm done, and we have about 10 minutes left, I believe. Are you there, Jeff?
I am here. I muted myself for the same reason I muted everybody else to cut down the background. Yeah, well, great. That was very interesting, and certainly if you ever get a chance to see Willie's facility, you should take advantage of it. We have a few questions. The first is, have you ever tried the Mayak in food ingredients?
We have not, and it actually should work for food ingredients. We've just never done it. No one has asked us to propose a project. It should work just fine. The magnets themselves are the only thing that I would be concerned from a food standpoint, but we actually coat those with a food-grade polymer in any case. So I think it would work very nicely in a food process.
Does that mean I can look forward to some very interesting Christmas cookies this year? I
think so.
Okay. Second question is, how is IP managed?
One of the things, I come from 3M, and 3M, as you all might know, is a very good company for intellectual property. When I started my company, if I used the 3M model as I'm going to keep all the IP, I very quickly realized that it was going to be a bad business model. So when we do small projects with customers, we'll actually own the IP. When we do larger projects with customers, we actually have an arrangement where we prefer that our customers own the IP. We just ask for the right to do the contract manufacturing.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. You know, so, okay, do we have any other questions? All right. So what often happens is people will think about this for a little bit and might come back and look for one of us to ask a question of. You can reach Willie at, I guess, Aveka at Aveka.com. And I'm going to copy that into the chat box, Aveka at Aveka.com, so that you can, so that just makes copy and paste easy. We will have a copy of the slides, and we will try to knit together a coherent recording, I hope, that will go on the HORIBA website. Certainly the slides will make it because we do have a coherent set of slides already. And so with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Watch our newsletter. Our next webinar will discuss our new CAMSIZER P4, and followed by a webinar about IFPRI, the International Fine Particle Research Institute. And that will be next month. So with that, I'd say thank you to everybody. And, oh, I'm sorry. We have another question come in, which is going to be more fun than saying goodbye. What is the cost of the MIAC process?
That's always a good question. It really depends on the materials. When we do TiO2, because it's such a cohesive product, we're dollars per pound to treat TiO2. It runs slowly. But when we run abrasives, as an example, we're running hundreds of pounds per hour, so it can be substantially less than $1 a pound. Depends on. Love to talk to the question asker and find out, particularly, I can give a better answer that way.
Okay. So, yeah, the person who asked the question, if you go ahead and indicate if you want Willie to contact you and you can get a real cost information, that would be great. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's something we should take offline. And I think now I will say goodbye to all, and thank you very much, Willie. We'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks everybody for listening.
Okay, thank you. Bye for now.